Hey everybody, Comrade Dragoon here, and this time for my next profile we're covering Fabled by Ragininsanity.
How you doing, YouTube? Ragininsanity is going to bring some Fables back from the dead here. Basic run is 3 Cerebro, because it's a level 2 tuner and it's easily brought out by its discard effect. 3 Chawa, because it's a level 1 tuner and you can discard a Fabled to get it out on the field and then get something like Cerebro out. 2 Ganasha. You can run 3 of them, it depends on your deck build. I chose 2 because I tend to run other monsters more heavily. But it's a level 3, basically like Cerebro. You can discard it to bring it out, and it only gets banished when it gets removed from the field, so it's really not that bad of an effect.
So it's very similar to Battle Fader.
Very similar to Battle Fader, but you're not using it when you take battle damage, but what you can do is get 2 Ganasha out and then go into Leviair, and then its effect for being banished stops working. I'm running 3 Grimrow. Right now I have 1 Proxy, but I'm going to be fixing that soon enough. Grimrow is your searcher of the deck. You discard it when there's a Fabled on the field in order to search a Fabled from your deck. It also has 17 attack, so it's a decent monster to get out. I'm running 2 Kurz. Kurz is a discard Monster Reborn. You discard it, and you Monster Reborn a Fabled monster as long as it's level 4 or less. Kusano is kind of the tech Fable. That's why he kind of holds the Necronomicon in his hand. You discard a Fabled monster to the graveyard, except for Kusano, and you can add that card from the graveyard to your hand. So he allows you to go into a Cerebro or something like that by discarding Cerebro, getting it on the field, and then getting Kusano to your hand. So you can normal summon after that to get that level 3 tuner out. I run 1 Lurie. Lurie is just like all the others. Discard it to special summon. He's a level 1, so you can go into the level 4 synchros that the Fableds offer. I run 1 Nozuchi. He's similar to Chawa, but he has a slightly better effect. You discard a Fable to special summon him. That means you can also discard a Fable to get that Fable that you discarded out. And then you get his additional effect to special summon another level 2 or lower Fabled from your hand. So essentially you get 3 monsters out for the price of 1. I run 1 Raven, because Raven is a needed card in Fableds, but you don't have to run him. I run him because he can become a beat stick, as well as you can use him to synchro into very high level monsters, given that he's a tuner that changes levels, which also helps with exceeding. I run 2 the Trickies, because the Tricky kind of helps the Fables by getting the tuners out and then gives them something to latch onto, so you can get out Red Dragon Archfiend fairly quickly. Sangan, Morphing Jar, and the Thunder King, just basic tech card. Sangan for searching, Morphing Jar to bring more cards to my hand, because this deck is very draw heavy, and Thunder King so that way I can still use Morphing Jar and a couple other cards, but it stops my opponent from using searching cards. Now onto spells. Book of Moon, because Book of Moon. Card Destruction, because Card Destruction Fables go hand in hand, but you don't use it as often as you'd think you would.
Unless they make Dark Card Destruction, which adds another effect.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, I could be using Dark Dealings, but I don't care for what it does, because it allows you to draw, but then it forces you to do something that you're probably not going to want to do.
Like Konami, copyright that card. Dark Card Destruction.
Yes. Cup of Ace, because I needed to draw a card and I didn't have any Upstart Goblin. Cup of Ace is still pretty good, because you're kind of guaranteed half the time to draw 2 cards. And if you're running a Unicorn build, which is the control version, it allows you to force your opponent to draw cards, which gives you control, which I'll discuss later when we get to the extra deck. Dark Hole, until I get Mind Control, Enemy Controller. Heavy Storm, Monster Reborn, 2 Mystical Space, and Pot of Avarice. Pot of Avarice is kind of self-explanatory, because of all the drawing and all the discarding, you tend to have a lot of monsters in the grave, so it kind of gives you some more draw power.
And also less time, like if your deck runs out.
Yeah, that also can hurt, because if you're about to deck out, Pot of Avarice is not going to help as much as you'd think. Fiendish Chain, because these cards tend to need a lot of protecting, because sometimes you can only go into 3 low-level monsters and you can't synchro because they're all tuners. So you put Fiendish Chain on the field to kind of help protect them a little bit. Mirror Force, because Mirror Force. 2 Reckless Greed, because Reckless Greed is heavily needed, again, for draw power, and with all the other spells for drawing, you tend not to care that you activate Reckless Greed, and if you activate them in sequence, so you activate one, wait for your opponent to do something else, activate the second one, you can get 4 cards on your opponent's turn, and then that way you're not hurting as much, because they both, their cost is to skip your next 2 draw phases, and that's done in tandem, so you...
so you only have to skip 1.
Only have to skip 2. Because your opponent, then it's your turn, you skip 1, your opponent, then you skip the other, and then you're free. So you've only used 2, but you got 4 cards out of it. Shadow Spell, same as Fiendish Chain, just to lower attack points, so that way I can get over it with some of my lower attack monsters.
They're pretty much the same card anyway.
Pretty much. And Solemn Warning, because Solemn Warning is kind of badass. So that's kind of my deck. It's 40 cards, and it's fairly simple. It's a heavy draw deck. That's why when I go to my extra deck, it'll make a little more sense. Acid Golem for kind of overbeater, 3000 attack, but it hurts the deck because of its effect that you cannot special summon any monsters. So I tend not to go into him as much. Utopia, because when I can, if I can, when I want to, I can go into Utopia, and he helps with negating attacks. Leviathan Dragon, because he's a better thing to go into than Acid.
But weaker.
But weaker. He has his upside, and then we're going to talk about Rogin, because Rogin is kind of the draw card for these guys. Run 2 Rogins. Rogin says when you control no cards in your hand, you can draw 2 cards, and this tends to happen a lot. This is when he's synchro summoned, by the way. It's very important that, because of spell cards and stuff, you just set your entire hand, whether it be on the field or in the back row, so you have nothing in your hand, and you just go Rogin, and then you can just draw, continue drawing, so that way you can go into these higher combos.
I'd like to ask, what is that blue thing in the corner?
Oh, those are the little monsters. They're in every single one of the Fabled cards. They're always in, like, the background.
They're kind of like the Easter egg.
Kinda. They're considered the little helper demons. Then we have Ally Justice Cataster, because Cataster is an awesome card. Gaia Knight, the Force of Earth. I'm planning on replacing him with another level 6 soon. I might also just, in all good conscience, just replace him with Ancient Wyvern, so that way I can go into that. Dark Highlander, because there can only be one.
There can be only one!
Then we have Stardust, because he's kind of a staple. Leviathan is the level 10, so he's harder to get into, but not by much. And when he's destroyed, you get 3 Fabled from your grave back to your hand, which kind of helps you go into power plays after he's destroyed. Plus, then you can Monster Reborn to get him back on the field.
That's all he does when he's destroyed.
Get 3 cards, so you can kind of abuse him by Monster Reborning or Call of the Haunted, and then when he's destroyed, because even if Call of the Haunted is destroyed and he's sent to the graveyard by the effect of a card, you still get his effect. You still get 3 more Fables out of the grave, so that can kind of help give draw capabilities. Unicorn, because Unicorn, like I said, is the control monster. It says when you and your opponent have the same number of cards, negate all spells, traps, and affect monsters' effects that are activated by my opponent, and destroy them. So essentially, if someone were to, I don't know, play Sfreeze, Sfreeze's effect would activate, and Unicorn, if our hands were equal, would say, no, Sfreeze, you're dead.
It's only when the hands are equal?
Only when their hands are equal, so that's why...
It's also it's a lot harder to get out of most decks, because level 4.
It's level 4, but again, you have Cerebral, which is a level 2. You have Chiwa, who's a level 1, so you tend to use Chiwa and Ganasha, so you use the dog and the elephant. Chawa tells you to send Ganasha to the graveyard. Ganasha gets special summoned by being discarded. You have level 1 tuner and a level 3 monster. You can synchro right into that.
So a pony, or an elephant and a dog form a pony.
Yes, sir, they do.
That logic is brilliant.
I have an Urquhart, just kind of, he allows me to go and destroy the lower attack monsters and beef him up a little bit, but he also is a good way of, he's a level 6, so if I get a level 2 tuner out, he allows me to go into the higher plays. Hyper Librarian, because Hyper Librarian's needed in this deck kind of with Roggen, so you get Librarian out, then you go into Roggen, so you go Roggen, draw 2 cards, Hyper Librarian, draw 1 card, now you've gotten 3 cards, and it's fairly useful. Plus, he's a decent attack points. Now for kind of what I built this deck for. Red Dragon Archfiend and Red Nova Dragon. You wouldn't believe how easy it is to get those 2 cards out, and pretty consistently too. And with Fableds, there's 2 or 3 4-card combos and 1 5-card combo that I've come up with, that I've found, that work brilliantly. And basically, if you get those 4 cards in your hand, even if one of the cards ends up being Grimro allows you to search for any Fabled, so you can generally get into Red Nova pretty quickly and easily. That's pretty much my Fable deck, and hope you guys enjoyed it, YouTube, and Dr. Kamen Rider.
Thank you, and be forward to looking to, most likely there will be at least some video of a deck between that and any others that will come up. Stay tuned for that.